Welcome to
House of Whimsical Terror.
I'm Esther.
I'm Mary.
And we're coming to you from Tucson, Arizona.
We're telling real stories of the fantastical.
And all of our stories are true or told to us as true.
Occasionally, we alter names to protect privacy.
And we do the same for some of the places.
Today's story is
The Old Hitchhiking Cowboy. I love this story. We have a very, very amazing guest who I love because she's my beautiful, perfect, talented niece, Athena Blue of the band Blue and the Boiz.
Yeah.
She's also, as many of you know, because we've talked about it before, is the composer and performer of our intro, outro music.
That's right.
And she's a dancer and an actor and an amazing storyteller. Mm-hmm. And this is a great story about her ex.
Excited.
Welcome, Athena.
I'm super excited. Welcome. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Well, thanks for having me back. I'm excited to share this story with you.
All right.
Okay, well, so, as you said, this story is about my ex. So, he's a very interesting character, I will say.
Yes.
He's a country artist. He's a really talented singer and guitar player. And just a fun guy overall. He's pretty well known for his character.
Yeah, very friendly, charming in a good way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, so it's kind of, I guess we got to go back pretty far into his lore, into his history a little bit, and his family history and everything. So he is the grandson of Roger McGuinn of the Byrds.
Interesting.
His name was Jim McGuinn. And so he's got, these like psychedelic country roots to him and everything, which is
great.
Yeah, pretty cool for him. And his family is actually really, really cool. His mother is, she's a Reiki healer and she's a very spiritual woman, and she's got a lot of really cool connections in the, spiritual community and everything.
That's wonderful.
Cool.
That's cool.
So Jim, he's kind of gone through some phases. And before I knew him, people were calling him James, which is also his name. But so he was kind of dressing very like 80s. I like to say vaporwave, but he hates when people say that. So he kind of, he had all these VHS tapes in his house with a good friend of his, who I'm actually friends with. He would, he had like a lot of friends and parties and make like videos and films, and he's very, he's a well-known guy. He's very like fun and eccentric. So he had this sort of James persona like back then. And this was, like college years. He didn't go to college, but it was like he was partying with all his college friends and everything.
Right.
And so that was kind of, an era. And then I met him at the Country Classics concert at the Gaslight Theater where I used to work. I was the house manager that night for this concert. And there's a table reserved for the performer, like for their family. And that table showed up late, so I'm like, are they going to be here or not? Because I have to keep track of who's coming in and
That's right.
getting seated and everything. So, I'm waiting for them. And he shows up, late, and I'm like, oh, like I know exactly which table you're at. Hey, let me get you to your seats. Let me like check the seating chart. And I was a little bit starstruck because I had already seen him before in my friends' Instagram videos and everything. So, so I recognized him, and it took me a moment, but I realized, I've seen this guy in some shorts in a video, music video or something, with his like crazy hair and everything. And so I turned to him and I said, oh, hey, like you're, you know, friends with this person I know. He's like, yeah, you know, that's my best friend. So we kind of got chatting, and then that's kind of how we started dating. But, yeah, he was very countrified at this time, you know, you know, wearing like his whole suit, his getup, and his cowboy hat. And he has, you know, these, aviator, prescription glasses that are tinted, and, and then he goes and sits down and he's like, oh, can I get a beer?
Just for our listeners out there, Athena did this whole mimic. It was really funny. She's got her fist on her hip and she's on her thigh. She's like, "Can I get? I can't." Yeah. It's adorable.
Yeah. So he goes, you know, "Can I get a beer?" And I'm not serving. At this time, I was the house manager, so I really shouldn't have taken his order. I should have just gone straight to the server, but
you were starstruck.
But I was starstruck, and I just thought, you know,
you had to fangirl all the way to the bar.
Just like, right. Of course I'll get you a beer, you know. You know, like, what size? This is our menu. And got my light out and everything. I normally would not do that, but you know, it resulted in a long, like, loving relationship.
Right.
So, yeah, so, you know, that's kind of my introduction to him. And then I went and talked, you know, when I'm house managing too, I go around during intermission and I'm like, how's everyone doing? Your food okay? You enjoying the show? I made it a point to make sure I got to his table though. Yeah. And we talked a little, and he's like, oh yeah, like, what's your name? Even though I was wearing a name tag. He's like, well, I'm Jim. And, so, you know, that's our introduction. So I think that's like a good backstory of, you know, just kind of first impression of this guy. So, yeah. And then we kind of started hanging out after that. You know, we had a really good relationship, but anytime I had talked to, anyone about him, you know, like that didn't currently know him, they're like, oh, you mean James? Like, you know, kind of like, he used to be this very different person.
Right. So everyone knew him. His name was James. He was born James. Mm-hmm. Everyone called him James. He had a very specific personality and lots of friends who knew him.
Right. And he's still, you know, he's still a very social guy, like very loved and everything. So he still has lots of friends, but now they're all sort of a different country vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and that was who he was with. He was with his, you know, like his other musician, like kind of more country-esque friends. The concert was really good, actually. There's some really good country classics in there. That's, you know, cool. Neon Moon and everything. Yeah. So let's see. Where to next? So yeah, we were dating for a while, and then one day he told me this story about how he went and saw some shamans. So, you know, he was going through, you know, a hard time in his life, and he needed some like cleansing. And his mom, being a very spiritual person, a regular healer, she knows a lot of people in that community. She's like, you know, I know some shamans. Let me get you hooked up with some shamans, and we're gonna, you know, like get you a little cleansing done. So he goes and gets the cleansing done, and they, you know, open up his soul or whatever they do. You know, they
do their shaman thing.
Yes, exactly, precisely. So, and then they tell him, you know, like, your energy is very susceptible right now to other energies. So be really wary of where you go. And this is still kind of in that James era, I think, when this is happening.
And it's a warning. They're like,
right,
a gentle warning. Go home, be, you know, present with yourself.
Find a way to stay psychically safe.
Right, exactly. Like that, you know, be in your own, you know, energy. Try not to let other people influence, like, you know, this cleansing that you just got. Be careful where you go. But he decides to go to this bar in town called the Bay Horse.
It's a cool bar, but it's kind of divey.
Pretty divey and fabulous.
Yeah, and everybody knew him at that bar as like, he had a brick phone at the time, and a lot of people have talked to me about this brick phone, including Jim. But it's like, a very staple item that he had. It's just kind of like
very old school.
Yeah, old school. And like he loves that old school stuff. So that's kind of, I guess another point I didn't mention is just like more of his country roots. Like some of his family's from Tennessee. He was in the Tucson Boiz chorus, which is, they do a lot of like cowboy songs and things like that. So he has like that sort of like in his roots. So he goes to the Bay Horse, he meets up with some friends, and
this is after his shamanistic cleanse.
Right after, right?
Right, yeah. It's like, I'm going to go have a beer at the bar, right? Well, he wasn't, Anyway, so he goes, has a beer, meets up with friends. They're like, oh my gosh, like you're like glowing, like you have this like aura about you right now.
It
like
was obvious.
Yeah, it was like so clear that he just, got this really, specific deep energy cleansing
experience.
Right, exactly. So people noticed. And then, some time had passed or whatever. Like, I think he felt it in that moment too, but then some time had passed and he started, from what I understand, he started kind of getting more into this like cowboy, aesthetic, like 70s cowboy aesthetic, very like, the hair and the glasses and the suit and like the shoes, like the boots and everything.
The mustache.
Mustache. Yeah. He's got like he had this really cool van, 70s like van.
He looks like he walked out of the 70s. He doesn't look like someone dressing like they're in the 70s.
He looks like the incarnation of,
Yeah.
Right.
He looks like someone, he looks like people that I knew in the 70s. He looks like he doesn't look like he's ironically dressing. He doesn't look like
it's very
like people dress up for Halloween. I'm gonna dress up for the 70s. No,
it's
he literally
authentic.
looks like it's shocking how 70s he looks.
And he's very comfortable in his skin.
It goes with his energy and he he gets vintage clothes. Like he's very prideful about his attire and like that it's authentically 70s. His house has like a bar, like a fancy bar with a leather front, and he's got like some lamps that are very like 70s and some mushroom stuff around the house, that kind of like
very 70s
orange and
like it's it's his lifestyle.
Right, exactly.
Like you would have been attracted to if you were in the 70s and it was stylish at that time, and that's what you would want. Yeah,
exactly. It's very like, not typical, but very attractive, stylish, fashion statement back then. So he really embraced that. And he looks cool, he's got a great style. That's something that really drew me to him too. It was like, oh, I love this guy's style. Like he looks awesome. So he's kind of like, sort of like going through this sort of transformation, and his accent starts to get more Southern, as it goes on. So I met him kind of in the depth of this, right? But so he's telling me this story, and then he says, okay, like he ended up having to go through, like he was going through some other stuff in his life, and then his mom decided to do like a healing for him at this time, and breathing healing and stuff like that. And then she says, Jim, it's really strange. Like I'm sensing that you have this spirit inside of you, and I think you picked it up on that one night. And it's this old cowboy, cowboy, and he's really wise. He's very, fun, but he's not a great influence. And Jim, like, he drinks a lot. So that's kind of part of that influence. And, you know, being picked up at a bar, it's like pretty apparent that alcoholism was involved there. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's where Jim was, you know, birthed in a way. Not birthed, but, you know.
But yeah, but
rebirthed. Yeah.
Yeah. But some old cowboy would prefer Jim to James.
Right.
And, yeah, and that particular bar is an old bar, right?
Cowboy.
Yeah, I think it's an old bar, and it is. One of the older bars.
It's one of the older
town.
bars. Yeah.
And it's like, you know, the Bay Horse, so it's very, you know, West country
cowboy,
themed, cowboy themed, and
so some old guy,
some old cowboy spirit just took advantage of his sensitivity that day after his shamanic cleansing.
So he's got an old cowboy hitchhiking, an old, probably hard drinking cowboy.
Yep.
Hitchhiking on that day.
Yep. And and he, I mean, he's been, you know, drinking since too young of an age, and has gone through like all these different, you know, like country experiences and everything like that, but it sort of like shifted pretty quickly, I think, around this time. So,
wait, so think about this. If you were an old cowboy spirit hanging out, that's who you're going to look for. That's who you're going to jump on and, you know.
Yeah.
As a vibrant young man.
Yeah, and start
so that I can merge. Yeah.
Merge.
Yeah. Like integrate. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Wow,
that's remarkable.
And now he's living back in Tennessee, and like he's from there, he's born there, but he lived in Tucson for most of his life. But now he's back there playing music and
he's happy,
living it up. He's got some really cool songs out. "Mop Me Up" is a good one.
All right,
shout it out. That was fun.
Yeah. And if he has videos, we can put them on our
for sure.
Facebook.
Yeah. He has a video about being an alcoholic, so that one's pretty good.
Right.
With this weird puppet that I hate.
All right. Scary puppets.
Yeah. We like the scary puppets.
So, and he gave you permission to tell us this story, which is super cool of him.
Thank you, Jim.
And he and his Hitchhiking Cowboy gave you permission.
Yeah.
I'm totally amazed. And I think it's great that he is, you know, able to express himself and his spirit.
Right. No, I agree with that. And I think he doesn't take this whole situation as like, not seriously, but I really think that this is what happened. And I don't know if it phases him in the same way. He just kind of told me the story like passively one day, but I don't know. There's something about it.
We never know. We'll never know.
Right. So,
or maybe we will one day.
Maybe.
Maybe one day the cowboy will leave and we'll go back to James.
Well, I think it's super cool that he was willing to let us share some of his experiences through you. And and I appreciate you taking the time to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share
cool.
it.
And I hope that we get some videos of him. So
Jim McGuinn, thank you so much, Jim.
Maybe Blue and the Boiz.
Oh, that too. Yeah, we've got all these musicians that we're telling stories about.
That's right. So,
well, I have some fun, scary songs that I can probably share too.
Yes.
So, we would be happy
some covers
to post
and
those.
some stories that I've written too. So.
Oh yeah, you were a great storyteller.
Yeah.
Athena told us or read us a really wonderful story in the event. So if you go back to House of Whimsical Terror, the event,
that episode,
you can hear her story in her beautiful voice.
And we did perform that song with with the band, so they were underscoring like underneath me with some creepy sound effects some stuff like that at our Halloween show last year. So
awesome. So you have video that we can.
I don't have a video of that, but we can make one.
Yes.
All right. Let's do it. Do it.
I'll talk to the boys. I'm sure they'd be happy to
All right.
do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right.
So we can put it on our Facebook.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you again and thank everyone for joining us. I hope you guys will look forward to seeing some items on our Facebook. And also, please come back and listen to more stories and share them. And for now, so long, good friends. Until next time, when we meet back at the house.